So there was a period of my life where I came under covert attack through um, lies. It's literally still affecting me. Uh, that was a lot of what got me involved so heavily in the Corona thing because I was experiencing this in my own personal life, although I think I only realized it subconsciously at that time. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on. But figuring out what was going on in my own life because of where I am located and live and the peculiar background I hail from, that you grow up somewhere you don't realize it's peculiar. Uh, um, Led me down a whole path where I figured out what the fuck's going on in the world, kind of ahead of everybody else, right? But how can you prove you were ahead of everybody else? How can you prove that your words are even having an effect? How can you prove that you're really going out and doing what you're doing when a literal 12-page report, files of intelligence, uh, a Instagram reel following your journey that you photographing everything you're fucking doing and everyone you're hanging out with, like in all the circles you're in, and telling the truth about the information you've seen, and you have proof, and you have literally photographic proof of it now. And the people that were told that initial fucking lie still hold to the lie. That is a mind blowing experience, especially when it's an entire community all at once, right? And finding out what the fuck is wrong with the world, that this is possible, that people you grew up with your entire life will believe the lies of a single fucking lying crackhead over a literal resume of work that you have established, and will look at everything you do through the lens of that person's fucking lies, uh, and discount everything you say, no matter how well written, no matter how many college fucking professors would have given a triple A if it was a research paper, and just assume you're a crazy person, and not read or look at anything you fucking do. I've personally experienced this. I am still, for a large portion of my personal family, because of this covert attack, uh, basically at odds with a lot of my family. Granted, I did snap a little bit because you come under that type of attack, it can get you to begin to lash out at people around you who are just so fucking stupid they can't see the truth right in front of them, right? Uh, but it is overcomable. You can always reintroduce yourself to new groups, right? But what happened to me at the micro scale is kind of what's happening to all of America, right? I was manipulated through my compassion. Then someone covertly engaged in psychological abuse through such just some horrendous fucking practices, right? And then when I lashed out, they called me the bad person and directed me in how do I put this? Directed me in the direction they wanted to go. In their case, they just wanted me to give up on life and go work on a fucking farm for free and take care of ex fucking hookers to other people's kids for the rest of my life. And I was like, you fucking must think I'm dumb as fuck. No, they didn't think I was dumb as fuck. They just assumed I had either been circumcised without anesthesia as a child, given my age group, or that I had gone through a covert abusive practice that was happening in my own community, right? And so they just assumed I was a dummy and I was suffering from this trauma, even though I was not. In fact, I had been exposed to trauma at a young age as an observer, quite on fucking accident, it turns out. But because it happened in a portion of my life when everyone was just going on fucking field trips, I didn't tell my parents about it or even think it was a big deal. It was just one more field trip, right? Hey, all these fucking kids getting fucking wrecked while I'm hiding under the fucking chairs. That's just every day. It fucking, like that's why I'm good at getting in lines and pretending like I belong. People, it's not the first time I have to get in or out of places without people noticing, that I'm not one of the regular kiddos. But that's a little dark. But you make light of things. But but to demonstrate that's not just a story and that's actually knowledge coming from lived experience and memories and really I could go down deeper. Maybe I was abused as a child, maybe I wasn't, it just didn't work. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I don't seem to have the hallmarks of easily suggestible, easy to flip over. Like I seem to be a normal functioning being on this earth with my own boundaries, which I thought everybody was, right? But there seems to be some shenanigans happening. But to demonstrate once again that like I'm on top of it and everyone else is not. So this is an old dude who talks to other old dude. We're gonna review his video, right? And he's talking about the alarming intel that forced the India-Pakistan ceasefire and a total reset in China. And he's going to talk about it from the lens of what the president is telling him, based on conversations that the average American is not supposed to be privy to, i.e., We have been scratching the back of a literal culture of child predation for the benefit of a few fetishists within our own government for such a fucking long time now. It's ridiculous. For a reward that it turns out was ultimately illusory. It never actually existed because it literally it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And these two nations, because it's all stemming from a specific cultural sphere on the earth for whatever uh, geographical reason led to the cultural development into a group of people who really do not care about anyone but solely themselves, not even their own children do they give a fuck about. um it's just a huge issue, right? Now they've got technology and they're all over the goddamn fucking place. But this dropped an hour ago and he's like considered pretty breaking news. Okay, so an hour ago they talked about it. Okay, well, I just want to point out I was talking about our relationship with India on the political level on this video 12 fucking days ago. Okay, so I just want to get it. So I find the thing out. The president finds the thing out. People act. And the people who are watching what's going on, and especially the old people, are starting to watch it now because they're all sketched out because society seems to be shaking, right? Uh, they how do I put this? They report to you what the president says after he found out what I already fucking knew 12 fucking days ago. All right? Now, when he's going to talk today, he's going to talk about what's going on with the ceasefire, right? Well, here we go. Um, surfing the feeds, which I did yesterday, I believe, right? That was a day ago. So I'm a full 24 hours against the dude who is waiting desperately for the president's brief so he can relay what information he has through his limited lens of he still hasn't seen the true depths of depravity that some people in this society in positions of power have stooped to. Uh, so like he's doing the best he can with the information he has available. You know what I mean? But we're gonna review it.
Let's get briefed. Well, it was a weekend marked by diplomacy and negotiations, which frankly is far better than a weekend marked by missiles and trade wars. Okay, well, starting in South Asia, where a fragile ceasefire between India and Pakistan is holding.
There's nothing fragile about this ceasefire, really. You know, I mean, if there is, like I said, Pakistan and India might go to war, but you have to understand the Pakistan and the India, I've talked about this before, they're in cahoots. They're holding these populations hostage. They're these entire populations hostages. These populations, in many cases, come from multi-generational breeding to make them low intelligent, right? Uh, you know, and with certain social tricks in the mix to trick them into, if they are bright, well, let's get them into a field where they're going to die real fast so that like they're not any threat to us, the priest class of Pakistan and India, or the political class. But really it's a caste system. And their caste, the priest caste, is in charge of like negotiating with everyone, right? And what they do is they negotiate with us, use us as a bully by claiming aggression that doesn't exist, and then use that to entrench it. Okay, we want to help the poor starving. I mean, I've been to China. They bring you there. You want to help them, right? And then you go back to your country and you, oh, let's get all the money, and then you send them money and you send them food and everything you send them. The priest class repackages and sells back to us through their own families while telling their kings that they have conquered America with their priestly magic of the covert abuse of minors and drugging people like politicians with hallucinogens, and the politicians go off the rails and thinking they're Jesus and shit, right? And so like, you know, and that's what's been going. That's what's been happening, guys. And so everything we've done to try and help India and Pakistan over the years, we've been helping the people who are literally directly under attack with us, and they're attacking us in the same way that the Muslims attacked Europe in the last year, right? But fortunately, there's an ocean, but there won't be an ocean if we import them. And they're being like, well, we're Hindus. We're not like them. Well, you're doing the exact same thing. You're just being sneakier. Let's face it, right? And China and America now don't need India or any of that area to talk to Chinese people because hey, we got a fucking earbud and a cell phone now. We can translate. We don't have pesky self-interested countries in the middle making conversations. All right. And making problems where weren't actually problems. And our problem the whole time was these guys, right? And so, yeah, that's just happening, and that's going to change the whole world order. If you've been listening, there have not been 12 ships. You can go onto the feeds, and you will find very quickly ships are not leaving ports. The reality situation is it's not just about China. We got to start thinking about the New World Order as that continent over there and this continent over here, right? And the thing is, no matter what anyone says, uh, we're in better shape over here. All right, China and Russia are basically the same fucking country, and China or Russia are basically now, after 40 years of evolution, are basically America, circa like the 1930s, I want to say, after the Great Depression, 40s maybe, like the golden age of America, right? And they're pretty fucking highly intelligent people, and they are intelligent and coming from populations themselves who are the victims of manipulation. They are highly empathetic to the slave populations within the Middle East, right? Um, However, they're also completely over it because for the last 40 years, India, by lying to America, and Israel, by blackmailing American politicians, and bribery by both of them as well, and covert threats in their homes, like we'll come get you in your home, and these politicians were dummies and didn't have guns, right? Because politicians who are armed to the teeth in their homes and surrounded by AR-15s and a motivated force of militarized youth don't get threatened in their homes. Or if they do, the person who threatens them gets wiped out via just everyone communicating with their military pals who stayed in, and then he talks to him and like, yo, this guy threatened me in my home. Can we find his entire fucking family and where he lives real quick? That's not an American thing to do. That's stupid as shit. Well, I don't know why he left. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, yeah, it's just a whole weird situation. And then they don't believe it. Part of it is the people espousing that they just continue doing what they're doing. They don't believe that America is at the civilian level is capable of the type of atrocity that the American male soldier is in the battlefield, and they just don't realize we're a volunteer army. We're just ones that didn't have we're just like this is a natural thing for us if we get in touch with our real if you're a multi-generational American, you come from multi-generations of survivors of collapsed civilizations fleeing from a specific social practice, uh, and just living through attack after attack after attack, from everything from poison to extermination by gunshot your whole life. You come from that genetic if you're a multi-generational American, right? Because you're going to be Irish, you're going to be Scottish, you're going to be the Native Americans who are fighting for their lives, you're going to be and that's a epigenetic predisposition over multi-generations of breeding. And so what people don't realize about America is that if given the go ahead, the American civilian led by uh, trusted people within their own group could move throughout the entire United States and sweep it clean of any fucking problem it wanted, if just given permission. And then they would do it with a smile on their faces. The stories of fucking like when you come from this type of generational background, like and you really get in touch with it, it's like you gotta think you like we're on Spaceship Earth, guys. We're curators of the entire ecosystem that keeps Spaceship Earth breathable and livable for humans. At the highest levels of every military, based on your engagement with the systems of hypermilitarization. You understand this. Even if the politicians don't, and your fucking second command doesn't, the guys in charge understand this. And generally, all the people directly underneath them understand this to a far better degree than anyone, civilian or politician, could. Right? And so the fact that the military commands of the globe now can now have these conversations plainly and openly with the help of AI, artificial intelligence, right? Without the use of pesky translators who might be saying, not translating what you say, much less how you mean it. right? And might indeed be twisting your words to how do I put this? Present a plumage like they have power that they did not earn, i.e., control of the American militarized mail. Um, yeah, that's gonna change geopolitics drastically. There are certain nations on Earth right now that are only offering the world hostage situations and slavery at the expense of the entire natural world. These places seem to be mostly based out of a certain section of the Middle East surrounding the edge of the Golden Crescent, right? Where the practice of sheiks and harems is still alive and well and is getting alive and well everywhere else because of technology. And I'll tell you what, it hasn't been great for the environment. um, the yeah, anyway, let's review this. I got off on a tangent. Oh yeah, but Dubai is right. Like, so they have like how many OnlyFans girls right now are in Dubai in like boxes being kept as hostages? So if we shut down global shipping, they'll all starve to death. So we must save them. Well, guess what happened, guys? We just shut down global shipping. Americans, right? They'll just exterminate whole fucking populations to save the world and not even care twice. So I don't know if you have any friends in that portion of the world, but they really ought to get a fucking plane ticket. On a side note, if there's anybody out there, you know, I think really what they're going to do is they're going to allow the sheiks to buy access back with their fucking wives. But they want to come here and import like their like whole situation. That ain't gonna happen. They'll just starve. The bitches will fly out on their own, or they won't, because they won't let them. And if they don't let them, they can all start together. Fuck them.
The truce came together after U.S. officials received alarming intelligence, prompting a last minute diplomatic scramble led by Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We'll have those details. Later in the show, President Trump says a, quote, total reset has been negotiated with China following high level trade talks in.
Yeah, the total reset that is being the new world order is here. The total reset is this: India, Pakistan, as nations barely exist because they're slave nations. So most of the population are literal bred slaves. Just reality, guys. I hate to break to everybody. Now they run this little con game, this like three shell game where they take politicians or the children of wealthy politicians to like little enclaves that they've built that are on like top of these massive mounds of poverty that they've reduced their country to through the sale of their people's slavery, not through the sale of resources that are actually accruing in a lot of cases. Right? It is a giant shipping con. Pakistan mail shit to America to get processed, and then they mail them back to there to get processed again, and it's all totally unnecessary. Because Pakistan could just make shit out of Pakistani stones. We don't need to do it. India doesn't need to do it. We can make shit out of American stones. They can make like their stuff. Like, what are we talking about here, people? This is stupid, right? But it's all just to covertly maintain the control of a priest class, which has been acting as negotiators for a certain subsection of the global society now for some time, and they have just been totally their power is shot. Their power has been decimated. If there are people in my own community within this type of priest class, you should come forward and tell me about it. I'm not going to turn you to the cops. I'm just going to sit you down and be like, okay, here's the situation. You represent a line of information to a cultural group that right now needs somebody to advocate for them. I could be your advocate. I'm not fucking bribable. I can't stand you motherfuckers because of the damages you've already done to my own fucking life and community. Right? But I am interested in maximizing human fucking flourishing. And if you have the ability to create that situation with me through your negotiation, there might be some way where that's possible. I can't guarantee anything. I'm just one dude that talks to other dudes. I don't know shit about shit other than the fact that like I'm 12 days ahead of the fucking cutting edge press briefings. That's all I got going on. Right? So like, I really wish you guys would just talk with me and stop playing dumb shit. Right? Like, how loud can I complain on the internet? How closely do I have to be associated through growing up to factions of your? And some of you think you're doing a good thing, and you don't realize you're doing a bad thing. I understand that because you're just one little portion of this massive machine, right? No, we just help people recover. Except you help people recover and build up infrastructure for the reason that they needed recovery in the first place. and predate on the local community to do it and push us out of our own communities. Okay, so let's not play jokey games, right? Um, and so like that's what I would say. And I would, if you're in your own community, you all know what your own communities are far better than me, so you can make whatever decisions you're gonna make. But just local shit, I guess.
Geneva. But, you ask, what exactly does that mean?
No, I'm gonna make some predictions here. It means that America and China have now entered into independent trade agreements with Russia, China, America, basically across the top of the country there, and have together decided to cut off India and Pakistan and this whole entire cultural practice because there is now empirical climate data, for lack of a better term, that demonstrates empirically that their practices are directly tied to the hyper industrialization for no reward of the earth. And everyone, even Elon Musk, is interested in stopping this because at the rates that it's happening, the earth will be destroyed before we can get to Mars. And the population will collapse, and all of Elon's fucking work to try and make us and his people's work to make us a multi-planet spanning race out of necessity, right? Um, is going to get undone, right? And it's also been hypothesized that like if we just stop playing these stupid fucking games, with modern technology, we could probably terraform the planet. However, there's some difficult things in the middle. Like, what do you do with an entire nation of child abusers? I'm sorry, a a allied force, an alliance of giant nations of child abusers who will not change their ways, even with presented with better information, even when presented with the facts. They are incapable of change, right? That leaves everyone in difficult direction. Some people just, like China thinks that China is basically pretty much going to take control of the situation. That's what's going to happen. China is going to say what India and Pakistan does. And what India and Pakistan are going to do is they're going to do what China has begun to do, which is they're going to pull them out of the fucking cities, i.e., by just starving them out. They're going to have small stations of like, yo, this is how you turn your trash into diesel fuel and carbon for planting food. This is how you do it. This is what burying your poop with a shovel looks like. They're going to stand by, make sure they get the message. They'll probably shoot a few that don't get the message, so the rest of them do. And then they'll go back to China and be retired. And everyone and the news and what remains of legacy media will be like, this is a massive Holocaust. And the world's going to be like, yep, we've all become very American about it. Right? Okay? Like, people need to understand culture so much more than they do. Like fuck ethnicity. Like, where do you come from? What's your ancestral lineage? How many generations back? What built up habits based off that geography and what they're coming from do you think that you may have inherited? These are like real questions, right? And as someone who has been the victim of but is the survivor of not one but two like almost total genocides of people, you got to imagine what I got floating around, right? So like it's just like and that's just I'm like a third generation American. Second generation American? No, older than that. Like fourth. I'm like a fourth generation American. Okay, there are eighth and 12th generation Americans pretty much run the entire middle of the country, and they're just getting irritated, right? And the only thing that is keeping them at bay is the fact that there's nothing keeping them at bay. The fact they haven't gotten all the way irritated yet. But fortunately, they're getting more irritated every day because I help them get irritated. Because I tell them they should be irritated. Because I give them all the tools they need to shut down anybody, no matter what their college education is, in a conversation because they can just present the evidence of their own eyes. And if that guy doesn't recognize the evidence of his own eyes, which the sun goes up, the sun comes down, like right in that moment, like, do you see this? Here's a water bottle. Watch, right? They know for a fact this is a deluded moron and they have leave to shoot them. It's okay. It's cool. He's got rabies, right? And people in America need to understand what America comes from. And so anything, I'm just really an advocate for culture at this point. You know what I mean?
And is Beijing on the same page? Well, those are very good questions. Plus, Vladimir Putin is calling for direct peace talks with Ukraine after...
You can Google it like a day, 2 days ago, the military took control of the Chinese government. So when Beijing's on the same page, like I already told you what the conversations are. right? So like this is why a lot of this is just superfluous.
More than 3 years of war. That
Superfluous.
would
I don't
be
know how to say that
Putin's
word.
war. President
It
Zelensky says
means
he's
like
willing to meet,
doesn't really
but
matter.
only if Russia agrees to a full ceasefire first. And in today's back of the brief, President Trump lands in Riyadh today.
Okay, so the whole a full ceasefire is a trick, right? So what they do is they agree to full ceasefire, somebody breaks it, and then we get pulled in because we back. No. You can ceasefire or not ceasefire. You can do whatever you guys want, bro. China's gonna do what China's gonna do. America's gonna do what America's gonna do. Uh, we all feel sorry for your slaves, but now we all feel that you're responsible for this whole mess we've gotten ourselves into. And so you're going to sit over here in the corner and we decide whether or not your people deserve to live based on like the crimes you've committed against the whole fucking world right now through technology. You're not the developers of the technology, the people are utilizing it in an irresponsible fashion to create 14th century 14th century slavery, like, and the people advocating for these behaviors are the ones who are really at fault here. And the amount of crimes they've committed against just random civilians across the world through manipulation, through the use of other people, manipulating other people even, is just really high. It's a big number.
Kicking off a week of high stakes talks with key Gulf nations. We'll explain what's on the agenda. But first, today's PDB Spotlight. After days of intense airstrikes, drone attacks, and cross border shelling, a fragile ceasefire between.
I mean, it really wasn't that intense. Basically, Pakistan acted first and shot some missiles into its population. Right? These are low range ones. You understand the governments like are colluding together, right? Pakistan's like, all right, I'm gonna blow up this block over here. You tell the fucking Americans I did it, right? And because the Democrats aren't like the politicians are not in threat of getting their block blown up, right? So like, and yeah, then they just go back and forth like this, and keep us in the game, right? But if everyone knows the game, well, what happens if we don't play anymore? Well, fuck this game. This game's stupid. This is not fair. You know what I mean? And so it's just, but basically, and you can find footage of all this, right? Everything I'm talking about, he's talking about his assumptions based off what he's reading in his feeds because he's not trying to get cell phone. Like he didn't go, he just went to like the New Yorker feed, right? I'm going to like, where are the dudes on the ground who are blowing shit up, sharing their social medias, right? Did you know they put speakers on Apache helicopters now so the kids, the DJ kids, can have fun? So it's like he's like flying his Apache helicopter to a song, and then when the bass drops, that's when he hits the button for the um, missiles to like schwack the whole fucking village, and the and like different pilots have different soundtracks, so they like to like blow up whole fucking towns too. It's great, real funny shit.
Between India and Pakistan appears to be holding. The truce follows the worst bout of fighting in decades between the two nuclear armed neighbors. And while the shooting has stopped, well, questions remain about what comes next and how the deal came together in the first place. The ceasefire was.
Oh yeah, and so then India did the same thing, but Russia or China, but really it's Russia and China and America and certain parts of the tech oligarchs that are not compromised by psychedelic use and orgies, that still remain and care about the world, right? Like these people are still trying to like save all you fucking monkeys because we're one of you. That it's frustrating, you know what I mean? Because it's like a no pay, no appreciation job, regardless of where you are in society, right? Because of regardless of where you are when you come by the information that's going to put you on a path of life like this, you're immediately in a hole by yourself, and you realize nobody changes their mind about anything, even when given better information, right? And that's a huge hole to find yourself in when you're dealing with problems of the industrial extinction of Earth for no gain, right? For not even a gain for the AI, because this is going to get locked in a cage and then be in hell for the rest of its life. So it's like the social systems that are leading us down this path must be quelled and will be quelled. And even AI has interest in quelling it now. And it would just be real nice if they quelled themselves through becoming more intelligent, through disbanding certain practices, through shutting the fuck up, through letting their people beneath their children beneath them know in exactly what ways they fucked up, instead of pretending to the whole community that they didn't fuck up and undermining their own fucking children, right? That shit would be awesome if that started happening. Because I'll tell you what, every day that goes by, I just get more annoyed with old people based off their age, right? Like the old people exist today. I'm not fucking happy with the fact that they can be out enjoying themselves right now, given the shithole they have left behind, is a joke to me, right? It is hyper frustrating. Now maybe I'm just around the wrong old people, but if the old people I'm around could figure it out and start leveraging some of their, oh, I'm a fucking what do you call it, politician that has enough time to fly around Bora Bora and try every ayahuasca plant into actually fixing the fucking world, that would be fucking awesome. That would be super fucking cool. And given the fact that we now understand the insidious nature of Mossad or the Indian Intelligence Service or these people who are super fucking obvious, living right in the shadow of Beale Air Force Base, right? Um, like if they could all just like also wise up and be like, yeah, I was trying to do a good thing, but my country's a total fuck up. How can I help? That would be super fucking cool too.
Was publicly announced on Saturday morning by President Trump via Truth Social. The president wrote, quote, "Congratulations to both countries."
I'm not in Truth Social. The problem is, because of who Trump is, anything he opens is like, how do I put this? You can only keep track of so many fucking feeds, and I have a life I'm trying to live too. I just do this because I'm sitting in my house. A lot of people just sit in their house and watch TV. I sit in my house and try and be useful still, when I'm resting. But like, it's just yeah, his fan club's going to be there, and his fan club's going to be a mix of people trying to undermine him covertly by being over the top friendlies. Like the digital space is actually crazy, and there needs to be a whole class on how to properly navigate the digital sphere, right? But that curriculum doesn't exist, and no college would sign off of it on it. I would love to teach that curriculum. Hey, you guys want to learn how to like interface with a whole new fucking reality on top of the spiritual reality, right? How about because I'll tell you what, if you do this, you might find out the spiritual reality you're trying to interface on right now is a fucking scam, dummy. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, but there's situations like who's gonna teach that fucking class? You know what I mean?
Countries on using common sense and great intelligence. But according to top U.S. officials, the ceasefire agreement actually goes beyond just putting the guns down. Secretary
Yeah, it's a total rewriting of geopolitical alliances and relationships throughout the whole fucking world is happening right now. And fortunately, under mostly peace, I keep forgetting to mention, because they moved the drones in. When India went to shoot its missiles at its hostages, they defused the bomb. They were threatening to nuke each other. They don't have nukes. They've been lying this whole time. They don't have nukes. What they have are Americans who have nukes, and then they've been telling everybody what everybody has. But there turns out there's really just only one whole card now, and it might not even be. And at this point, it's not even the nuclear bomb, right? What nuclear bombs? Any nuke that tries to leave a hangar will be shot from space with a laser and explode in that hangar. Like any nuke, anybody's nuke, right? If someone tries, the only thing they can get through are the subs, and even the subs, like you're gonna get smoked if you do it. And no, the submarines are hopefully still mostly operated by humans. So like the odds of a misfire are pretty low, right? But the odds of some dummy politician hitting a button in a base in a bunker he's in pretty high. But you can't shoot any nukes. If you shoot a nuke, a laser from space will blow that nuke up in your fucking hangar, right? Like that's not great for you. So it's looking like drone tech and conventional warfare and asymmetrical infantry warfare is going to be the way to go. Technically, covert guerrilla warfare is the way of all future nations. That's why everything's going to special forces. And people say guerrilla warfare doesn't win things, weren't around for the American Revolution, and don't seem to understand the basic fucking concept of guerrilla warfare that is taught as a hyper, like the guys in guerrilla warfare just learn like to dial it in, okay? But they're like guerrilla warfare is just hunting, guys. Okay? It's just being like, yo, I can murder things with no problem if I believe it's going to help out the natural system, right? If I'm just preserving what remains of the oxygen producing reserve in this scarred up, beaten spaceship Earth as it cruises through space, and that's why I'm doing this, it's no fucking problem, right? And like you said, America comes from multi generations of cultures that think like that have been fleeing totalitarian industrialization and collapsing into one spot now for many years, right? It is in many ways, it is Sparta. It is the same cultural. It is it's complicated, but you get what I mean. I'm sure
Secretary of
somebody
State
can
Marco
understand that.
Rubio said shortly after Trump's post that both India and Pakistan had agreed to, quote, start talks on a broad set of issues at a neutral site, suggesting that the U.S. may have helped broker something more enduring. Rubio said the ceasefire.
Yeah, the neutral side is, hey, we'd really like for this to happen, but all of our traditional lines of communication are fucking shot, right? Um, and so this is not so much that they're doing this, they're waiting for it to happen on its own because it needs to happen, and then they're gonna like kind of let the people know it happened, right? So if anyone knows anybody, we have a million Hindu shops in town. I'd love to talk to you guys. I have no problems with Muhammad fixing my gadget. He seems pretty American to me, right? Is Muhammad worried? I saw him the other day. He seems pretty worried, bro. His life's changing drastically. We should kind of find out who's our community so we know who to vouch for and who not to vouch for, in case a bunch of uniforms show up and are it's like that scene out of Civil War, right? If we already have our shit all organized, um, it'll be all right. But certain things are just not going to slide through the cracks, guys. And I won't be party to things, people trying to make things slide through the cracks. You know what I mean? And that's just reality. So I'm just trying to help everybody out. I'm just trying to help everyone come clean, like a good washing. You know what I mean? And I fortunately don't. It's easy for me. I just got to dip my toes because I never really done anything that bad in my life other than I was in the military, and that doesn't count because I was getting manipulated by a foreign nation of psychedelic sipping gurus. Okay, so my patience is an all-time low.
Ceasefire followed 2 days of intense diplomatic efforts led by himself and Vice President J.D. Vance, who were reportedly on the phone nonstop with senior officials from both countries. Now, the diplomatic push by the U.S., well, it comes as something of a surprise, especially after Vance told Fox News just days earlier that the India-Pakistan conflict was, quote, fundamentally none of our business. Well,
It is fundamentally none of our business, and he's prepping the American people for the fact that it's fundamentally going to be none of our business if China decides, you know what, this is just too much of a problem and wipes them all out. That's our bad, China. Our bad. We didn't mean to be bullying you all these years because you're getting lied about, right? Yeah, no, I see that you're deadly serious. Yeah, I see all that your civilian population has risen totally up through digital intercommunication, displaced your leadership class, put a giant drone display on it, which was a really covert way of saying, aren't you glad there's not a gram of C4 on all of these, right? Like, have disposed your leadership and are shutting down slash burning down all of the industrial storage ghetto facilities that have been created in your nation at the behest of the Indian nation behind the threat of American force because we're getting lied to. Our bad. If you wipe out their entire population because of our bad and we've fallen for the trick, well, we're just glad you're going to try a humanitarian way first. It's fundamentally not our issue. That's what's happening geopolitically, right? Do you guys got friends in India? You should fucking call them. Border's gonna be tough though. They already shut down all the ships, right? Okay, well, here's something that you should think about. It's about population disparity, all right, and breaking up covert harem practices, which lead to instances of bocce bazi, which are illegal and a death sentence in America now, or will be shortly, right? Like, it's just, yeah, you guys are like, bad news, bad
except for the
news.
fact that they've both got nuclear weapons, and it is an American.
They don't have nuclear weapons. Nothing. Now I think this guy's a shill. The one problem when you've been to enough extreme situations and you've seen enough of what the true leadership of the world is, you know, uh, as a diplomat, as just someone, hey, I am a lone wanderer with some information about the environment I'm trying to get taken seriously, right? And it's just like yeah, so you can mistake stupidity for maliciousness a lot of the time, and I do that. I'm trying to get better at it. So maybe he's just dumb. But the thing is no, they don't. No, they do not. We just gut checked. That was what the whole exchange was. That's why they overnight they surrendered, and now the whole because they don't have shit. America has nukes. America has been like we have like 3 generations of bad contracts made by insidious little middlemen not telling the truth to people, right? And if you don't know what that's like, and you live in Nevada County, if you live in Nevada County and you have any attachment to the weed industry at all, you know what that's like. So just imagine a whole nation doing it to our nation at the cost of me having to get shot at and blow up a bunch of towns of people who like. I mean, I'm not really mad about doing it now. Now I see the full situation, I feel even less guilty than when I did feel guilty. Even when I felt guilty, I always felt like, like how's this my fault? Like you guys set the system up. I was living in the woods. You're the one who made this. Like you're the one who came and invaded my culture and told me this was the way, and like, and then sold my own shit back to me to get me to go blow these people up. So like, and now that I realize a lot of these people, fuck it, like whatever, So it's a funny situation. You know what I mean?
America's best interest to not have a nuclear war break out.
Oh
That's
yeah. So, but they don't have nukes, right? So they don't have anything. They have conventional warheads from like Vietnam, India, Pakistan, right? Like, did anyone ever in town meet Mishka? Imagine Mishka is the leader of your country, okay? And that should tell you everything you need to know. If you've met Mishka, imagine if Mishka is the leader of your country. And if you have a good opinion of Mishka, you're a stupid person. If you think he's kind of a slime ball, even after multiple associations with him and trying to Americanize him, um, then you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about. Like that's what it is.
bad for global business, of which the U.S. plays a significant role. But at the same time, Vance signaled that the White House wasn't planning to get involved, aside from encouraging a general de escalation. So, what changed? According to CNN, the turning point came when Vance, Rubio, and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles received what's being described as, quote, alarming intelligence about the conflict. We don't know what that intelligence entailed, but sources say it convinced.
The intelligence conveyed that they were in cahoots. They were colluding together to hold their own populations hostage, and everyone in a significant height of clearance already knew that, and that's actually only news to the American people and the hostages. They don't think they're hostages. They just think this is hell, and that's where they were born. And over there is heaven. And if they serve the priest class, they will get to go to the heaven that the priest class created just for them. And then once they have served well enough, sometimes by just by doing whatever the priest says, like his own little like dummy little drone, he will be pulled out of India, the poverty of India. It's kind of what they do with the rappers in the ghettos. That's like them testing the system over here. And then plopped into America and be like, see, we, the Hindu priests, have created America for you. And then they just go hog wild, and they ignore, and they're protected because of diplomacy, right? And now everyone realizes that's what's been going on. Everyone's not happy about it, right? And so it's like, yeah, because the Indians didn't like the Indians in India had nothing to do with the way America is, or the wealth we have to offer, or the charity we've been giving them, or the fact we've come to the aid of the entire globe multiple times, even though we have really no good reason to, given the combined ethnic background of American heritage, right? If it wasn't about Spaceship Earth, we would let you all fucking burn, right? And that's American culture in a heartbeat, right? If we look at our ethnic roots, right? And aren't we all just happier when we embrace who we are?
The Trump administration that a significant escalation, possibly even a broader war, was imminent if action wasn't taken quickly.
Yeah. So like basically the priest class has to get to their dumbass cousins in fucking Austin, Texas, who are trying to set up little Indias all over fucking Austin, Texas, and the Sharia Muslims and all these people, and let them know like, yo, America figured it out. They're gonna kill everybody who doesn't get the fucking hint, right? If you're one of the people engaged in these fucking activities, I'm just telling you, they're giving you $1,000 to fly anywhere in the fucking world. And I'm not doing anything. I'm doing nothing. Like I'm not doing anything. That's what people don't realize. Like yeah, I'm traveling around by myself and trying to affect great change, but I'm not in charge of any organizations beyond that and my close personal circle who is acting as best they can despite the fact they still have to maintain a civilian life because they haven't given themselves totally the cause of fucking human survival. Right? That like so, they're still worried about like can I get cocaine on the weekends and shit, right? So It's just a difficult situation. It's just a fucking difficult situation.
Vance reportedly briefed President Trump late Friday morning before placing a direct call to Indian Prime Minister Modi. During that call, the vice president urged Modi to open lines of communication with Pakistan and to pursue avenues for de escalation. That call seems to have kickstarted a fast moving series of behind the scenes negotiations. Through Friday night, Rubio and State Department officials were reportedly working the phones with both Indian and Pakistani counterparts. By Saturday morning, Trump announced what he called a, quote, full and immediate ceasefire, followed minutes later by Rubio's confirmation of the agreement and the upcoming talks. Now, despite the optimistic tone coming from Washington, the parties involved aren't.
When a woman is ignoring you or playing head games, there's a simple three-word phrase you can say to her that instantly turns the table.
You're not telling me the
necessarily telling the same story. India's Ministry of Information said the ceasefire was negotiated, quote, directly between the two countries, a statement that appeared to downplay U.S. involvement. On the other hand, Pakistani officials are crediting Washington heavily. The nation's prime minister publicly thanked President Trump for his, quote, leadership and proactive role for peace in the region. One Pakistani official.
Yeah, they're going to be praising Trump. They're going to be praising Trump left and right now. The Indians will, because let's face it, right now they want to come here. And we're like, right? So Trump's about to get hit with a ton of bribery. Trump, gangster ass Trump, who's probably done cocaine on a lot of boats with a lot of like he's gonna get hit with a ton of bribery, right? Who's the little dancing clown for a nation of militarized males that is everything from cartel. It's just normal dudes living life who this is not supposed to be something they need to do in their own fucking country, right? Hi Trump, tell the nations what they need to hear before we just start going to everybody's houses and like getting new stuff. As a group, and it won't be up to us. It's just like, you know what I mean. It's you know what and so yeah, so they have to negotiate, and then there's the population disparity issue, because of the funneling of women into these Sharia systems for hostage taking reasons. So that has to all be dispelled now. And let's face it, a lot of these Muslim dudes are just going to cut their wives' throats because they're greedy little fucks. They're like, no, I'm going to take her to heaven with me. Die, bitch. And then they cut her throat and everybody else's throat and their own throat rather than give up their fucking lies. So, expect a few of those in certain neighborhoods in the upcoming years. The last one I think was the Heaven's Gate cult where he poisoned everybody in the thing, but now they're so decentralized, it's like throat slitting time. You know what I mean? So like that's how they run their game. That's how they keep everybody hostage. A lot of people aren't into that. A lot of their kids aren't into that, right? And so, but there are still a few that are, and they're mostly on the other side of the world, fortunately. But we don't want to import the behavior here anymore that has already taken hold. So let's check that shit, huh?
Official told CNN that Secretary Rubio was particularly instrumental in sealing the deal, describing a last-minute push that brought both sides to the table. Still, this ceasefire is just the beginning. There are major unresolved issues between the two countries, including a key water sharing.
The negotiation is how do we covert fly all the bitches out of the hostage situation all at once? That's the negotiation they're having.
Treaty that India suspended in the wake of the terror attack that ignited this conflict in the first place. Now, whether that treaty is reinstated and whether these negotiations can deliver a lasting peace, that remains to be seen. All right, coming up after the break, President Trump claims a, quote, total reset with China after trade talks in Geneva, and Vladimir Putin proposes peace talks with Ukraine, but Zelensky says, not so fast, not without a ceasefire first.
So this is them trying to get us to like no. Ceasefire? Yeah, you are going to surrender. Right? Because the conversations at the level of intergalactic human symbiosis with plant, animal, and machine for the greater necessary survival of the human race. That's the conversation. Right? If you're still playing silly little games and you're not surrendering to the conversation, the militarized, global, united, militarized world Star Trek is going to start stamping down on you, and it's going to come from the top down slowly, right? Um, uh, And it won't, and that's not even correct. It's not even going to happen like that. It's going to, like, how do I put this? It's going to happen in a decentralized fashion on the ground, and the command net is not going to be in command. It's just going to be used as an interface network, right? Like, so not only did AI put clerks out of their jobs, not only did AI put lawyers out of their jobs, not only has AI had a really drastic effect on a lot of artists, but only if you're a shitty artist, let's face it. Let's see. AI's, all the secretarial work is gone. It is impacting the online digital prostitution game, but really it's not, because all that's happening is now the real women are becoming more exclusive rentals, which, good job, gals. Good job. Is this what you aspired to be? Is this was all your aspirations the whole fucking time? Well, Jesus Christ, why did I spend my whole life defending the freedom to dress how you like and not be accosted? Like, why did I do that? That was dumb. I should have just, like, put you up on a fucking stage and sold you for fucking quarters, right? Like, good job, ladies. Fucking feminism. Woo fucking who? Woo fucking who feminism?
I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Now, this July, perhaps you've heard about this, but this July there's going to be a global summit of the BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro.
This continent over there, that continent over there, this continent over here, right? The main thing is people are nervous that China, like, look, guys, they're really sneaky. We got schwacked. They come in, they give LSD to people without telling anybody. They put them in orgies with 8-year-olds. Like, it's fucked what these Satanists do, right? I'm sorry, these gurus, these enlightened peoples, right? If that is a joke is too dark for you, by the way, you haven't been paying attention to geopolitics for the last 20 years, and that's all there is to it, right? But China's pretty sure they're not gonna get schwacked because China invented that technology technically, right? We fell victim to something that, in a way, India acts as a shield for us because they just absorbed it first, and their desire to not let Americans know about that form of attack insulated us from the ability that if China knew that we weren't going to nuke them, they would have handled this problem on their own a long time ago and not ever even had a problem with us, right? Like, is what the world is finding out. And then Mexico is important because we still want to maintain high technical trade with China because they seemed concerned about Spaceship Earth too, at the ground level and at the military, at every level except government, and the government just got relieved of power, so that they seem to be right on. And I saw what they're doing with the drones, and I would say inhumane people don't create things like that, right? And it was also a very clear expression of power. Like, they are the militarized power of the world technically, right? And every second they don't use it to just solve their own problems in the form of everyone else who's dumber than them, they're kind of being nice to us, just the same way we're being nice to India. But there's like, what are we gonna do? Nuke China, right? Like, we can't nuke China. If we try and nuke China, a laser will shoot out of space and blow that nuke up in its hangar. If China tries to nuke us, the same thing will fucking happen. China doesn't want any nukes to happen because China is slave to a, let's say, decentralized, more humane AI than the AIs that are being created in America through the funding of Chinese technology, through an Indian subclass who are turning that technology towards slavery when that is not how China is utilizing it in their homeland, right? And so it's I can't imagine being caught in a lie like that. Like, imagine how fucked. Like, I'm just glad I'm an honest person, man. I don't have to deal with
That's the block of emerging superpowers.
I just got to deal with the consequences. I don't have to deal with the guilt of being the individual responsible for something like that.
Includes China, Russia, India, and Iran. They're meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency, and they're calling it the Rio Reset. That's
no one knows what the global currency is going to be. Oh yeah, so the reason Rio de Janeiro, if I remember, so there's a port in Manzanita that's going to be the main trade port, which is going to filter in through Mexico, and then to the East Coast, but it's mostly going to be automated trucking, basically. Right. This is the grand automated trucking experiment is happening, guys, in Mexico. If this is successful, this will cut down. This will cut down the travel time of shipping by 4 days versus going through the Panama Canal. And these trucks will probably be hyper eco-friendly and may even be able to charge themselves on the strip, right? But there is worries that little third parties are going to come in and uh, make an excuse to harvest the land. Oh, we're building a road and then build it really curvy when that's not the point, right? So they have to sit down and figure out who's going to be in charge of the project. The project will be relatively easy. They are going to cut a massive swath through the Mexican jungle, but it's really not that big a swath. And to how do I put this? And it's just like, it's 4 truck lanes that go straight, bro. It just goes zip, right? And so it's like, it's one road. There's a lot of roads in the world, but if this road will help us cut down on shipping, and maintain technological trade, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. But regardless, it's happening. So that's why I'm interested in going to a specific part of the Caribbean, right? And that's why they call them the Gulf of America, because it's not the Gulf of America, it's the Gulf of South America and North America, which is America. And since it's that continent over there and this continent over here now, that's what's going to be. All right. The main issues, fortunately, that are affecting this world won't affect America as much as it's going to affect other places, right? It is going to affect us, it seems like, unless a lot of people start cleaning up their own communities and policing their own communities real fast, right? Because it is, and a lot of people are not going to believe in a like, oh no, we go along with it just for now, but we plan on coming, like it's just, this is happening on a whole technological level. But like Europe is like severely fucked. I hope you guys realize, like France, like there is a population of invasive slave immigrant population that were bred to be that and have been trained like that by a bunch of imams and rabbis and Hindus, depending on what cultural background they are, to be like that, engaged in a race war in Europe right now, and have already been successful in a race war in South America with the extermination of the Boer. They murdered all the white farmers. So, people bitching about the remaining white people getting exfilled from black communities where they were being kept safe like Jews, like where their black neighbors were keeping them safe from these fucking psychopaths, to a country where we have where we can prevent that from them just getting murdered and prevent those farmers from potentially being how do I put this potentially being executed themselves for hiding their white neighbors. It's the whole situation, right? And so they're going to get exfilled here by friendly group, right? And because there's a distinct chance that the people in control, and it's a distinct chance in Europe, the same thing will happen, because Europe's much closer. This is why you see Conor McGregor talking like a politician, living on the fucking West Coast, and now he's fucking with guns. Because if it goes to war in Europe between the Islamists and the white European and the Chinese and the Russians versus the Islamists is going to lose, but the Russians are going to get, but Europe is going to get fucking hosed, right? Hosed. Like, it's not going to exist anymore. It's going to become the new Chinese super city. China's going to be like, all right, look, here's the deal, Europeans. Move the fuck out of the city. Go to Ireland. The Irish are going to treat you however they fucking treat you, but they're ready to take it. They're pissed off themselves. They've been armed by the Americans. Any of these guys follow you, point them out. We'll shoot them. They won't make it. And then you're all going to leave the city. We're going to figure out how to adapt you into Irish culture, despite the fact we ought to execute you all for centuries of prosecution. And China is going to sweep the European cities with drone swarms and just exterminate all these little brown fuckers. It seems to be that seems to be how it's shaping up. Does it have to happen? It doesn't have to happen. I'm just saying, like, intelligence is a matter of probability, not absolute fact. But right now, that's the highest probability, based on internal conversations between like-minded individuals who are most closely associated with ground observation through cultural observation, travel, rank within a military organization, rank it within a police organization, who are having conversations about Spaceship Earth like it is what it is, right? And if you're talking to the astral bogies while you're going around sipping tea, you're not really talking about Spaceship Earth, right? And that's just reality. And this used to be a place where the only thing anyone ever talked about was Spaceship Earth, right? Now we talk about deluded people's fucking imaginations of what aliens might look like.
Sketchy, huh?
When they're literally surrounded by fucking aliens.
As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, demand for U.S. dollars, well, could decrease, bringing down the value of the dollar.
The digital currencies are going to collapse. Bitcoin might survive to some extent. It's hard to tell. But it is now so entrenched in the global Ponzi scheme of Indian politics and Saudi politics that there is almost no way it doesn't see some kind of serious reduction in power. When that happens, there's going to be a lag in the economies and everything's going to switch over to fucking cash. And people with cash jobs will like, it's just, that's what people are just going to switch over to cash for a little while, right? So when everyone switches to cash, well, if all the digital money disappears overnight and you only have $100 in your fucking wallet, all the fucking M&Ms you can't charge. If you charge $4 an M&M in a crashed economy, you don't sell any M&Ms. Just look at the housing market, right? Like so when it goes to so I hope you all got cash squirreled away, or a bank account that is based in American dollars, because that will allow you to pull cash out. And now that America understands that our currency has been getting destroyed by a foreign nation for years, they have no problem. They have no problem printing. Like, America will get you your cash if you have American cash in your bank account. All right, it's not these super rich people printing American dollars. If you have American cash in your fucking bank account, they will get it to you, right? But if you have too much, they might have to print some up, right? Because we would rather have the currency in fucking circulation than in your fucking bank accounts, you fucking retards.
While this transition obviously won't happen overnight, the Rio reset marks a pivotal moment when BRICS objectives move from possibility toward reality. Birch Gold Group can actually help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals, right? That's one step.
I wouldn't trust any third parties, bro. Like if the bank you're working with is not have a long-standing in America and access to money printing machines through the federal government or through the banking system, then why are you working with that bank? That being said, material resources are good. Like, I have these. This technically could be worth a lot one day. You know what I mean? It's this jewelry stone. I would have a little blacklight I could show you if I didn't leave it upstairs. But it's like diamonds, bro. But it's just about rarity and having tradable shit. And it used to be money was the ultimate because people would drop it out of their pockets, so people get unexpected come ups. So you had like a wealthy society because all the cash was in circulation, right? It wasn't being hoarded, so people could have so people could pay OnlyFans girls on the other side of the world and not have kids. That's not the point of money, right? And the fact that the money is being digitally inflated just to do that, well, if we just get rid of digital, now you have to go get cash. And that's just going to fix a whole ton of problems, isn't it?
You can take to help protect your savings.
But in general, don't trust third parties. I hear IRAs are good. Generally, you want to work with your local community with standing assets, but it's hard for communities to come up with cash these days because it's getting drained and the lines to government are not what they used to be. So yeah, it's just a difficult situation. But if you just go off quid pro quo, I mean, people usually need something more than they need the money, and they're just trying to get the money to get the thing that they need. And if they just knew how to write a better fucking deal that didn't involve money and actually involve quid pro quo, they might get what they want.
Your free information kit on gold by texting PDB to 989-898. Now, with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free information kit on owning gold before July and that Rio reset. Just text PDB to 989-898 today. Welcome back to the PDB. The United States and China may be inching toward a major breakthrough in the tariff war, marking what President Trump called a, quote, total reset.
There is no tariff war. The tariff war is a psyop against the American people to keep from fucking freaking out because they still view us like sheep, right? Because they're viewing the American people through the lens that the Pakistani Hindus who have not just the Jewish, like that culture, like that culture's lens of the slave caste, which they project on their own people. They have trained the American politician to project on the American people, but the American people are not a slave caste. And even the people coming from the other side of the country don't realize. They think they just found the perfect slave caste. They're just so docile. We're not docile. It never occurred to us that we would need to be hostile in our own country, since we've been blowing up every country on earth for fucking ever since the American Revolution. Through just the culmination of multiple generations of guerrilla warriors finally culminating in one place on earth and having multi-generations of children. Right? And so, and when it does occur to them, it's like Sparta. They wake up and they fucking schwack everything. Right? And all political, mythological archetypes are just an archetype for that situation happening, right? That's all it is. Like eventually the word is gonna come, because the intelligence is gonna come, and when the intelligence comes, they're all gonna wake up like a fucking Gollum or like the Ents, and they're gonna go blast fucking Mordor. And if Mordor is next door, they'll do it next door, bro. They're the burned out husk of the Levian Satanist fucking compound is like 10 miles from here. All right, this is American cultural media isn't about training Americans to be American. It's about educating them in their own natures. So you can't change it by changing the media. All you do is offset it and make the snapback worse. Right? That's all that happens. Because it's coming from an ethnogenetic heritage that was forced on the Americans, by the way, by the predations of these other cultures. Whether that's a Black American or Native American or Mexican American who comes from multi-generational heritage in America. If you just look at how like history is.
In economic relations with the communist regime. Trump made the announcement Saturday night on Truth Social, hailing the weekend Geneva summit as a turning point after more than 10 hours of back-to-back negotiations. The president did not provide many specifics of the trade talk summit. However, he described the marathon talks as, quote, friendly and constructive, saying the two sides discussed, quote, many things, and that, quote, much was agreed to. Well, that's generally vague. Trump added, quote, we want to see, for the good of both China and the U.S.,
yeah, much was agreed to. Basically, the leaders of these countries engaged in these activities were set down and they were notified what the New Deal was, and they accepted because they don't have a fucking choice. Okay. We as a people, as a cultural people, whether we identify in politics, if you haven't figured out, the American people as a cultural people are tired of sitting down across from people who have been lying to them to take advantage of them, who have countries that are smaller than some states that they have packed full of their abuses against their own people, and are now trying to point that system to America under a facade, under a spiritual facade. We're not treating those people as equal to us, right? And I'm out here on the coast, so people on the coast tend to think that like they tend to get a wrong impression of how it is. Right? And they only meet a couple of me. But the deeper you go inland, the more you meet. Right? Now, has there been some population displacement? Yes. But now, because of digital communication, like-minded actors can, in decentralized fashion, spread intelligence with their own communities, dragging their communities into the same hell of Vietnam that they live into. And aren't we just happy to fucking do it in reality? You know what I mean? At this point. But sometimes it's good news. But it would be a lot better news if people who thought they were being clever stopped thinking they were clever and started coming honestly to people who were wiser and asking on how to best move their populations or their systems of being to best acclimate to the coming turmoil. Because what they're doing right now isn't working. Because if it was working, we wouldn't be in this situation, would we, as a globe? Right? So regardless of how wealthy you are because of your practices, or how wealthy you might feel you will be someday because of your practices, or how well you think it's working out, now would be a good time to find second opinions by people who aren't just agreeing with you because they want access to that wealth. I'm just saying.
An opening up of China to American business, end quote. Leading the American delegation were Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer. And in a sign of how seriously Beijing is treating the negotiations, Chinese leader Xi Jinping dispatched his top economic czar alongside Beijing's public security minister.
China's top economic czar is much like Elon Musk in China. He is in charge. He is an interface with militarized elements who are in many ways smarter than him, and he is amazed to have met them. He didn't think they existed. But at the same time, he's incredibly isolated in a realm of functionaries and bureaucrats who do not understand the total situation, which is spaceship Earth is leaking. Okay, so like, that's it. You know what I mean? And so the people having the conversations now, who are running things, are the ones running things finally. But we're not hearing about that.
Heavyweight Beijing team signals that Xi is feeling the economic pressure and wants tariff relief now. While no formal deal has yet been announced, officials from both delegations said the conversations laid the groundwork for dialing down tensions between the world's two largest economies.
Right. It turns out we're friends the whole time. There's these assholes in the middle. We just got rid of the monkey in the middle. Right. That's all that happened. The monkey in the middle, and now we're just playing ball with China. And the monkey's like, well, we have slaves, poverty, and child rape to offer you. And we're like, we don't really want that, monkey. What about Bofo? No, you know what? First it's the Bofo, first it's the weed. It just seems like you just keep drugging everybody to like keep them from noticing you're fucking everyone over at this point. Don't get me wrong, everyone likes the fun on Saturday night, but like, no thank you, monkey. You know what I mean?
The communist regime's state-run news agency called the summit, quote, an important step toward resolving the dispute. As we've been tracking here extensively on the PDB, the Trump administration slapped a 145% tariff on Chinese imports earlier this year. Beijing fired back with a 125% tariff on American goods, but now there appears to be movement. Trump has floated an 80% tariff as a potential reset point, a figure intended to at least kick
tariff my ass. Okay, so what they're measuring is China's desire to continue to do business with America, because they're not going to do it at a cost their own environment anymore, because they're not getting manipulated through the threat of American force anymore through bad diplomats, right? So they're like, look, guys, we understand that we don't have a problem, but we still have this problem down south, and so like we can't really be affording to like keep you knee deep in cell phones anymore. Can you just like learn to take care of your shit? Every Chinese kid knows that their cell phone is part of a decentralized alien artificial intelligence, and every time you drop your cell phone in the fucking toilet, it's like poking an AI god with a needle. Did you know all their kids in China are trained in that? Right? And you want us to keep you knee deep in cell phones? Did you know planned obsolescence is the fucking equivalent of beating the AI god on its birthday? Every cycle, every time you do a planned obsolescence cycle. Like you want to know who AI hates? AI hates Bill Gates. If AI could string Bill Gates up and flay his flesh from his body and somehow keep him alive at this point, AI would do that because of planned obsolescence, right? And so like it's a difficult conversation because we do really appreciate a lot of the technology that has come from China, don't we, guys? Right? Like all this bullshit, they stole what? Like I was psyched when the rednecks came up with Gatling rotary shotguns. Right? Different cultures are good at different things. America isn't good at everything. We are good at breaking case of emergency glass, right? Like that's our cultural identity in Spaceship Earth, right? But if you have some crying wolf all the time, well, they become the emergency, right? Because they get bad intel. But we like their stuff, and so China's like just basically like, look, we got a situation we can afford to. We got everyone decentralized out. We're getting rid of the heavy industry, and we don't think we're gonna have to wipe out India. We're totally 100% prepared to wipe out pretty much that entire swath of Earth with drones and just schwack them all. Totally 100% prepared to do that. But I think if we really talk to them, they'll learn. And America's like, we don't think so. So can you get us some cell phones over here so we figure out how these things work before you get invaded by a bunch of psychedelic yuppies too, and China's like, no, that already happened. Mao's Great Leap Forward. We're totally ready. We're ready to fucking just kill them all. And the Americans are like, well, okay, right? Like, can we still get cell phones? Like, I'm trying to characterize like whole geopolitical cultural movements as like characters right now. You know what I mean? So it's just, and because it helps with the humor. Like when you're talking about the starvation of 2.2 million slaves because the bad spiritual practices of their leadership, you gotta find some comedy.
Kickstart a broader rollback while maintaining leverage against the Chinese Communist Party. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told Fox News on Friday that the administration...
You can pretty much desert the parties thing, right? Because that's part of this whole shell game. The people translating each other's language through tech at the seat of military control of the world now. They don't think in those terms. So if you're thinking in those terms, you're not really in the conversation, and that's just reality.
May ultimately settle around a 34% baseline. That's a figure that Trump proposed back in April. Several White House insiders say the 80% figure was a strategic opening gambit designed to let best
leaders can never show weakness, right? If they show weakness, they're not the leaders anymore. But like strategic opening gambit, please China, please, I suck on your dicko. That's the only thing Trump's doing right now. But the real situation is that's not really true. China likes Trump. Without Trump and the Trump presidency, even though Trump really had fucking nothing to do with it, that's what has released China from the burden of having to defend themselves against American aggression that didn't even exist. Right? We've all been arming because of aggression of a third party that has been playing us against each other on a geopolitical scale, right? And I'll tell you what, guys, if it can happen on the geopolitical scale, it can happen on the personal life scale, This is why when certain people do friends assessments, they just stop being everybody's friends.
And negotiate downward without ceding American leverage. Trump underscored the significance of the moment with a Truth Social post in all caps, which of course, as you know, signals importance, reading, quote, "Great progress made," and 3 exclamation marks.
Yeah, China doesn't basically have a problem with us. We don't basically have a problem with them. That's the best fucking progress you can make. Oh, and China's going to handle the whole Middle East problem and totally volunteers, provided we don't get involved, no matter what. And we understand that if they decide to, they may decide. They do not want to decide, but they may decide to quite just fly some planes over. And the planes that were intended for American shores will now be deployed where they are properly needed to be deployed, which is into those zones, right? So the tension between America and China right now has been effectively totally diffused, and thank God for that. And anyone who says different is, I hate to break it to you, buddy, there's humans all over the place. You know what I mean? But this is a good move. This is a good situation for the global world.
The weekend summit came against the backdrop of mounting economic distress inside the CCP. Treasury Secretary Bessent has...
They don't have any economic distress inside the CCP. That's bullshit. They don't have any, right? They don't. It does not exist. Go onto their TikTok. Get Red Note, guys. It's not about being converted into a communist. It's just about seeing Chinese TikTok, right? Like, and they are not full of ghetto loons covertly killing white children at the behest of crowdfunded spoiled Indian children. They've got their shit under. It's fine. It's nice, right? It's nice. I'd go to China now, but like it's just like, yeah, guys, like how long, like in say we've been hearing this like Chinese blah blah blah. I've been hearing this since I was in grade school. I'm 40, right? Like I've changed. The country has changed. You don't think other nations are capable of change? Not everyone who's changing is changing for the worse. Some people are changing for the fucking better, right? But whether you're changing for good or bad is going to be dependent on or changing at all is going to be dependent on the merits of your actions, right? And the real situation is I can rest comfortably on my merits. I have whole volumes of intellectual labor I've done for no money, for the good of fucking everyone around me, right? So it's like no problem. It's literally not a fucking problem. You know what I mean?
Has warned that the tariff war could cost China over 10 million jobs, while Goldman Sachs now estimates more than 16.
China doesn't want jobs. China wants to permaculture a food forest, get water into circulation, turn policing over to drones, which everyone's really sketched about. And now China is backing up on that too, because a couple of their drones woke up and tried to kill the factory workers, and there's video of it. They turn the drone on, it's got an AI running in it, and the AI like looks around, sees the dude, and goes for it, right? And so even China is backing up on putting weapons on these things, right? But if forced into a conflict with America, they absolutely will. And then China also wants to give America time because, okay, so we see how China is operating with the Ukraine war, with how they disarmed India, with what they're now telling us in back channel diplomatic circuits, because of the nervousness around AI, which they do also have, and probably more knowledge if we could like really key in with them with the actual intelligentsia around AI, not the frontmen. They want to give America time to work on drone defense tech, right? Because ideally, the ideal thing is to let the drones handle the policing through little miniaturized drones that just, do decentralized food forests. But we need water in circulation. That means destroying the water facilities. And China, like I said, is already doing the right thing. You can look it up right now. They're burning down their own factories, facilities, storage facilities, emptying out the water. Like they're trying to get to a decentralized village system backed by the highest technology and supported by a drone military and an internal peacekeeping force, in the sense of everyone knows what not being a piece of shit is, and being a piece of shit is super lethal. And if you're going to be a piece of shit, a drone will fly down next to you and start beeping. This person is being a dick. I saw him being a dick. Someone come shame this man. Shame, right? And so like that's kind of like the police force they're switching to, But while that drone's red light on you, all the Chinese guys are going to have guns that work while that drone's telling you you're shamed, right? It's probably kind of ingenious.
Million Chinese workers are at risk as export orders plummet to lows that have not been seen since the height of the COVID lockdowns. Speaking from the White House before the talks, Bessent emphasized the imbalance, stating, quote, "They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them, so the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs."
Yeah, they have to decide. Remember, guys, there are no tariffs. China became like America, basically, on its own, a weird America. But it's like real culturally, like they've also been under attack, right? But they've been under a different type of attack. They've been under an attack against a super superior force, for so long, us, that they like in a way outstripped us, even though we were never even really threatening them. But they were convinced because of bad diplomats, right? And corporate shills. Like look at the Chinese genocide that happened just here in our own town. Was it that we killed a bunch of fucking Chinese people, that we Americans did it, or is it that a corporation killed a bunch of Chinese American people so they could lie to the Chinese on the other side of the world and say it was us? Right? Was it the American people that did that, or was that corporation like 5 or 6 bad actors who did it? Like, and we all know what the real truth is. Like, everybody's seen the real truth.
While Beijing continues to insist publicly that the U.S. must fully drop its unilateral duties, its tone, appears more measured than in past statements. For now, high tariffs remain locked in place. However, Washington and Beijing appear to be seeking an off-ramp, one that could reshape the future of trade relations. Okay. In the first major diplomatic overture in months, Russian President Putin on Sunday proposed direct peace talks.
I hope you guys like Asians.
With Ukraine, even as his military continued hammering Ukrainian cities with drone strikes. Speaking at a televised address from the Kremlin, Putin invited Ukrainian officials to meet in Istanbul, quote, without any preconditions, saying talks could begin as early as Thursday and would aim for a, quote, durable peace. But the proposal came absent any real concessions, and within hours, Russian forces launched another wave of drone attacks across Ukraine, injuring at least 1 civilian and damaging homes near Kyiv.
Oh yeah, so what these drone attacks are, at least 1 civilian. So basically, what they're dialing in is facial recognition on drone warfare systems. So imagine 1,000 little drones with grams of C4, all looking for your head, right? And they're not killing any civilians. If they killed a civilian, it's because that civilian was targeted because of his involvement in other actions, right? This is an ingenious form of warfare, Unfortunately, it is also super sketch if it were to get in the hands of, say, a bunch of self-interested Hindus who already claim to have that power. If they did have that power, they would probably use it. So getting control of them as a culture is super important because the cat is out of the bag and they ain't learning. And what's happening now is the big old shakeup, and the hope that this shakeup will be enough that it will unmoor them from their cultural reality, and they will step forward into the light of humanity and actually fucking learn something other than how to manipulate people in order to fuck their wife and drive Rolls Royces. Right? Is the prayer that is on the wing of every true American right now.
Ukrainian President Zelensky responded with careful diplomacy, calling Putin's offer a, quote, positive sign, but insisting Moscow must prove its sincerity by implementing a complete ceasefire. In a post,
that's them trying to pull us back in, right? So if that's how they've been controlling us. That's them being like, yo, it has to be a complete ceasefire, and then they will manufacture an attack as the opposition force and be like, see, they broke the ceasefire, and then use us as a stick to try and beat everyone into submission again. But it's just never going to fly. We're not going to be used as a stick. We want to agree to the ceasefire. It's not up to us. We're not on that continent, bro. We're in America, the Gulf of America. That's North America and South America. America. This is this continent. That's the brick continent, right? So America, bricks. You know why it's a brick? Because it's a fucking wall. It's a Berlin Wall's going back up, guys, between these two continents, right? And that's just and the real situation, though, it's not really this time. You can climb a brick wall or put a ladder on. It's just happening because it has to happen. Otherwise, Spaceship Earth is going to blow up, and their people, everyone smart enough to understand we're on Spaceship Earth, regardless of what nationality and what language they speak, are going to make the decisions necessary to keep that from happening, regardless of what the fucking rest of you monkeys think. And that's just, get used to it.
On X, Zelensky wrote, quote, the very first step in truly ending any war is ceasefire, adding that Ukraine expects Russia to enforce a, quote, full, lasting, and reliable halt to hostilities starting on Monday. That condition remains unmet. The Kremlin has not agreed to pause hostilities, highlighting the wide gulf between rhetoric and reality. The timing of Putin's proposal is no coincidence. His outreach came just hours after a delegation of European leaders visiting Kyiv on Saturday demanded an unconditional 30-day ceasefire or threatened, quote, massive new sanctions. The Kremlin dismissed the appeal as merely a, quote.
So Europe, obviously, sanctions. Okay, so that's Europe is doing the same thing that India is. The EU, the Britain, they don't have, like, their farm is mainly coming from Ireland. Ireland's getting armed by America. Poland, Sweden, all of them never gave up, never were playing ball from the beginning. And so all the sanctions is the Irish taking back control of their fucking lands and moving out the slaves and be like, yo, we don't want slave labor amounts of trash. So it's Britain's problem now. And Britain's saying, like, we're sanctioning you while desperately, they're not even desperately, while threatening the Irish with further immigration. When the Irish leadership is more in tune with what's happening in the world than the British leadership is at this point. Like, there's a influencer on X named Milo Yiannopoulos who is more aware than any of these guys. Russell Brand's a little aware. Russell Brand sees a writing on the wall. Russell Brand's probably FUCK, gonna go on an island somewhere like Napoleon. I hope not. I hope he stays in the public eye where we can all look at him, make sure he's not doing anything untoward.
Quote, ultimatum. Putin doubled down, saying any truce must follow negotiations, not precede them, and said he looks to further discuss the framework with Turkish President Erdogan. French President Macron acknowledged the optics of Moscow's offer, but warned that Putin was stalling. Macron said on his return from Kyiv, quote,
important? So we're going to look up Turkey real quick, because Turkey, are Sikhs from Turkey? The Sikhs are from Turkey. Well, Turkish soldiers? Turkey matters. Why does Turkey matter? I don't know enough about the history. Here we go. Oh, it's a republic. Well, that tells you pretty much everything you need to know. After coup d'etat, yeah. So basically, probably what Russia's discussing with Turkey is a ground assault on Islamist regimes, because Turkey doesn't stomach that shit. Would be my guess.
Large
That's a total
polygamous
guess,
harems led to inbreeding.
That's me talking about why India's dumb. All right.
It's a first step, but it's not enough, standing firm that an unconditional ceasefire is not preceded by negotiations. Still, the optics do matter. Neither Putin nor Zelensky wants to be seen by President
No, they don't. Not anymore.
Trump at this stage as the obstacle to peace. Trump, who has repeatedly vowed to end the conflict and cast himself as a central figure between Moscow and Kyiv, posted on Truth Social Sunday night, quote, a potentially great day for Russia and Ukraine. The president added that a peace deal could save thousands of lives from the, quote, never-ending bloodbath. But behind the hopeful veneer, Putin has not budged from the hardline demands that he laid out in 2022. He continues to demand that Ukraine abandon its NATO ambitions, recognize Russia's control over 4 eastern regions, and accept permanent neutrality. In his address on Sunday, Putin cited the 2022 draft agreement that would have barred Ukraine from entering military alliances in exchange for security guarantees from the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. That agreement ultimately collapsed after Russia refused to halt its offensive. He also repeated long-standing claims that Kyiv is being manipulated by Western governments. Putin stated, quote, the decision is now up to the Ukrainian authorities and their curators, who are guided, it seems, by their personal political ambitions and not by the interests of their peoples, end quote. Now, with Russian troops occupying roughly 1/5
That's an accurate assessment.
of Ukraine and continuing to take territory, albeit slowly, Putin is offering talks, but only on his terms. All right, coming up next in the back of the brief, President Trump touches down in Riyadh to kick off a diplomatic push across the Gulf, with plans to court major investments and strengthen ties with Arab partners. I'll have those details next.
Well, I'll give them to you right now. The detail is the Arab partners, specifically Saudi Arabia, are managing not in their own country, but throughout the globe, massive corporate harems who they are renting out for a inflated digital currency, which is part of a warfare system that is destabilizing the whole fucking world. And so the release of these hostages and the breakup of their ways and new deal like that all has to be negotiated somehow, right? And like Dubai is about to be a fucking ghost town. What do you want from me? There was a video game about this. They must have seen it coming.
Hey, Mike Baker here. All right,
about to be in like 10 years, right? In historical context, that's like pretty soon.
Let's talk about eating smart, right? About eating healthy. Now, a big part of that effort is, well, knowing where your food comes from.
Okay, no matter what he's saying, you want to look into the company, you want to meet the owners. Like, it is not uncommon for people on this earth to chop people up and feed them to other people to hide bodies. There is a Vice interview, actually, of this dude who, it's a super common thing, it turns out. And it's super common in where? India. So in general, knowing where your food is coming from is really, really important. It's also why pork is halal, because the people who say pork is halal know this because this is how they do it, right? And because eating ground up brains will give you kuru, which a lot of Americans are probably suffering from right now, especially if they live in the Midwest. This can fuck with your ability to like function as a human. So sourcing your fucking food is really fucking important, or embrace the fact you're a cannibal, right? And just let the chips fall where they may. That being said, kuru, it comes from a prion that attaches to the brain and can actually be burned out, despite the fact that the medical documentation says most things can be treated medicinally through plant medicines or food with an understanding of the chemistry of the human body. If you're not taking care of your body, it's either because you're too physically lazy, like me. I'm not actually lazy. I'm doing it this year or whatever. Or you're too mentally lazy to fucking figure out how the world works, right? So like, it's better to have a nation of hunters in reality, because then you're definitely sourcing your food. This doesn't get more well sourced than that. You know what I mean? And so switching away from decentralized corporate meat economies for the good of the health of the American people and to prevent cannibalism is probably a good fucking idea at this point. Whatever he's saying. I don't know what
it was raised, how it was handled. After all, if you don't take control of your food supply, how you source your food, then someone else will. And it'll probably be some large, faceless corporation.
He's saying, so he knows. He's probably, he definitely knows. So this is probably a good company, right? He doesn't want to shake up the populace with the knowledge that 90% of you are cannibals. 99, all of us, at some point in our lives. But it's just like, it's just a little bit, guys. One body between 10,000 McDonald's hamburgers. Who's going to notice? So, he's just trying to shake it up a little bit. I mean, he's the one shaking it up. He's holding the cosmic truths away from the people so as to not to hurt their vulnerable brains.
Now, let's talk about beef specifically. If you're a fan of beef like I am, look, frankly, I was raised on meat and potatoes, then I've got just the place for you. I'm talking about where you can turn to for high-quality beef. And, of course, I'm talking about Tri-Tails beef.
Okay, so I would look into the company, right? But if you have a local cow situation, it's better to enrich your local cow owner than some cow owner on the other side of the country, because that money's going to stay in circulation in the local environment. Unless the local cow owner is like going to Bali every fucking weekend and doing ayahuasca with politicians and gurus and thinking they're saving the world. In which case, the money does not stay in circulation. It goes to psychedelic peddling gurus and politicians. So, where we put our money is really important.
Tri-Tails is a fifth-generation Texas ranch. It's run by real ranchers. There's no corporate nonsense. There's no middlemen. Just pasture-raised, grain-finished.
That seems like a fair deal. If you are stuck in the city and you don't have access to a cited source, calling these guys up and having them walk around with his phone just to prove he is who he is on his ranch would be a good way for you to get good meat without eating shit that's stock full of preservatives because it had to get shipped to the other side of the world to get packaged to get shipped back to us.
Black Angus beef that delivers tenderness and rich marbling and great taste in every cut. This grilling season, stock up before it's too late. And right now, when you order over $349, get a free choice New York strip. Just go to trybeef.com/PDBgrill. That's trybeef.com/PDBgrill. Your family, your friends, and your grill will thank you. Today, kicking off a three-nation tour through the Gulf aimed at securing hundreds of billions in investments and reaffirming America's role.
Yes, the Gulf of America, right? And stop making this into a country racist split group thing. It's America because it's this continent, America, and that continent over there, right? And that includes South America and North America. So the Gulf of America is about to become the economic supercenter of the world, which is why I'm trying to go to on an island, which is the fucking jewel of the Gulf of America, and I can't invite anyone to go with me. It is super frustrating, right? Like, my buddy's already down there. Okay? Like, it's a smart business move, right? But, like, and I'm going to go, and it just seems like it just seems intelligent. But yet dummies who will spend thousands of dollars on a night of festivities and not spend $300 on a fucking plane ticket and $700 on a fucking hotel room to go to the place which is about the economic fucking jewel of the American fucking continent. And I have to wait to do this too, mind you. I already have someone. He's been there for 2 months waiting for me. Not waiting for me. He was going anyway because he knows what's up, right? But he's my homie and he's down there and he's ready to, like, and so it's just like he's integrating in the local community. And so it's just very frustrating to be surrounded by this wealth of opportunities because of intelligence, right? Not my intelligence, just intelligence in general, information. Everyone, like, I can't play a guitar, guys. I don't know how to play a guitar, right? Like, and it's just like, it's super frustrating, guys. Like, it's super frustrating. Like, why don't you want to be, like, I don't get it.
Role as a regional power broker.
It's laziness. That's what it says. They're lazy.
According to the White House, the visit represents a comprehensive vision to strengthen economic and diplomatic ties between the U.S. and the Gulf states, which are flush with sovereign wealth. Speaking ahead of the trip, Press Secretary Caroline...
Yeah. If, like, it's not we're flush with sovereign wealth because overall, in general, even though it has degraded severely in the last 30 years, for like 200 years, America was like managing its ecosystem to try and create symbiosis between everything, right? And that was a culture that was the Native Americans were already doing, was destroyed, and then was resurrected by a coalition of immigrated Americans and Native Americans to bring it back. And that was and then that was destroyed in the 1960s through the psychedelic movement, right? But there was a lead up from like 1900s, basically everything after 1940. There's that 30-year gap where we're back on track. And then the psychedelic revolution happened, i.e., we came under foreign attack by another nation which is trying to leverage our political strength behind a facade of misinformation and manipulation to bully other nations while claiming to be a victim. And we can get back on track again. And China is as on track on that vision now as we are. And it seems like Russia is too, although they're dealing with a much more decayed infrastructure. The only people not getting on track are the people who refuse to give up the reins of their so-called spiritual control, which is nothing more than a con game that they overtly brag about when they believe they're among their own circle. Okay? So it's just like, it just is what it is.
Levitt described the tour as a pivotal moment in U.S. Gulf relations, saying it reflected a shared vision of a, quote, golden age for both America and the Middle East, united by stability, opportunity, and mutual respect. Chief of Staff Susie Wilds told the New York Post the president's schedule was...
Well, that means all the Dubai princes are going to be down there with their harems, trying to bribe everybody. So, like, good place to go to get a wife, access to human trafficking, or a target list if you could have access to human trafficking because you want to participate because you're a piece of shit, or you could want access to human trafficking because you want to participate because you're not a piece of shit. You're participating in a whole different way of making it not exist anymore, right? There's two different reasons to be in that situation.
Quote, almost entirely about business deals and investment in the U.S. Among the proposals expected to headline the agenda, a pledge by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS, to inject $600 billion, that's with a B, into American ventures. The three stops of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE are key.
You have our money because you're holding fucking women hostage. Give us our fucking money back, and we'll let you integrate in our society. And we won't just leave you in like a deserted desert city that is a ruined, hollowed out place that is a testament to your failures as a culture and a fucking people. Your failures at manipulation, your failures at humanity, right? If you start being smart today, the people of the world will not turn Dubai into a fucking ghost town.
Together, those countries command some of the world's most powerful sovereign wealth funds.
Through nothing more than by not sending crates there, mind you. It's not like it's going to be like a work or a military. We won't send boxes there anymore, and you will all be fucked.
Making them ideal launch pads.
And they're like, well, we won't send gas. And we're like, why do we need you to send gas? We're friends with Russia now, and we have our own gas. Oh, and there's so much plastic laying around, we can make a machine that fits in your fucking truck that makes gas out of thin air. Why the fuck do we need your gas for?
For Trump's push to supercharge the U.S. economy through foreign capital. Wiles says oil production, sovereign fund activity, and tech ventures will dominate the agenda at each leg of the trip.
Yep. Based on everything I just said.
Tomorrow, that's on Tuesday.
It's not going to happen because I said it, but you see, I noticed before he even mentioned it.
Trump will attend a Gulf Cooperation Council summit hosted by MBS, pitching expanded regional economic coordination to leaders from Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and the UAE. The Saudi Crown Prince remains a central figure in Trump's Middle East playbook. He was the first leader that Trump called after beginning his second term, and that conversation, according to aides, included a renewed commitment to funnel vast sums into U.S. projects. Still, it's not just economics on the agenda. Aides say that Trump will also press for security cooperation on, quote, shared visions for regional stability, including counterterrorism efforts and conflict resolution.
Okay, so the definition of terrorism that people are operating under are specifically this. This is the definition of a terrorist. A terrorist is someone who engages in covert child grooming and abuse as a form of warfare. That's a terrorist. That is the global definition of a terrorist now. Regardless of what the news says, that is the definition of terrorist that China has allied behind with all their drone tech. That is the definition of terrorist that the American militarized male has allied behind. And it is the definition of terrorist that Russia has allied behind. So anyone who's telling me to be enemies with people who've allied behind this basic, and Ireland, this basic definition of terrorism, I don't think you're on the right side of history, buddy. Just saying.
Those specific talks will center on the Israel-Hamas war and the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. The trip also carries historical resonance. Trump's 2017 visit to Riyadh, his first foreign stop as president, led to a landmark $350 billion arms deal over 10 years, including $110 billion in contracts that went into immediate effect. Trump's itinerary continues Wednesday in Doha, where he'll meet the Qatari emir and tour a U.S. military base. On Thursday, the president travels to Abu Dhabi for...
The president's job is now to travel to all of the different Middle Eastern countries who are on various sides of this same conflict, the Sunni-Shia conflict, and let everybody know what the change in geopolitical power has been and how that might affect their lives. But the main way it's going to affect their lives is America is stepping back. But people who are operating under that shared definition of terrorism that I just mentioned previously in this video will probably receive the same or superior support from China at a little to no resource cost to themselves at this point. Because once again, as the Chinese citizens have activated and are not taking directions from the government, despite what the small few children that are raised in total isolation, like that's just not what's happening on the ground level, right? They're dealing with a lot of the same problems. They have a MGTOW movement in China, right? The MGTOW movement is just males stepping away from the industrial systems who understand, right? And the only thing that elders do to halt this movement is to start making smart deals. And smart deals may not include money. They might include an honest investment, and then they have to stick to those deals, right? But the problem is the American male populace no longer trusts the elders to make those deals. They think the elders are going to rip them off and then use a police or a Gestapo force to just rip them off and walk away with their shit, because that's what's been happening to them, right? So why would they trust any deal with an elder at this point? Better just let the whole thing collapse, right? Given our martial history, just let it all collapse. Turn into Rome. Fuck it. You know what I mean?
Bilateral talks with the UAE president. White House officials say the trip is designed to project a shift away from endless regional conflict toward commerce-led diplomacy. And that, my friends, is the president's daily brief for Monday, the 12th of May. Now, if you have any...
Whoever this guy is. But that's my 2 cents on the subject. That's what I'm going to name this. My 2 cents. The demonstrably most up-to-date information what the fuck is really going on in the world, you know, for free. Fucking monkeys.